Hey, welcome to Lady Overlander Radio. Tonight we have Janell with the Pack Track. Stay tuned.
Grab your favorite drink, whether it's a coffee, cocktail, or tea, and get ready. It's Ladies' Night on Lady Overlander Radio. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. The Lady Overlander Radio podcast is available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other major podcast platforms. Enjoy the show.
Hey guys, welcome to the show tonight. It's just going to be me. Misty has some other meetings going on this evening, so we're running solo this evening. But I have my little trusty friend Janell with me. She's going to help me through it. How are you doing, Janell?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. So, Janell, I'm just looking through a few of your pictures, and you have a lot of stuff on your motorcycle.
Yes, it's pretty packed.
How do you even stay upright with this thing? And you guys see your dog?
Yeah. 2 dogs on my bike normally.
Oh, wow. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, your adventures.
So I'm from Sydney, Australia, and in February 2014, my husband and I left Australia to ride motorcycles around the world. We thought it would be about a 2-year trip, but it's now nearly 10 years, and we're still not quite back to Australia yet. There have been a few delays along the way, COVID and things like that that we've had to deal with. But we set off with a dog we had in Australia. Her name was Skylar, and she was a Staffy Cross. But unfortunately, she had cancer and she passed away about 6 months into the trip. And since she passed away, we've picked up 3 street dogs along the way. So there's Wheatie, we picked up in Venezuela in 2014, end of 2014. She's our most traveled dog. She's been to over 100 countries with us on the motorcycles.
Wow.
We have Shadow from Colombia. We got her not quite a year after Wheatie, and she's on 90-something countries. And then just a couple of years ago, we were riding through Turkey, and a tiny little puppy was on the motorway, and I picked her up, and she actually had parvovirus, which is quite deadly, but
Yes.
we got her the right treatment, and she joined our pack, and she's a very happy, healthy dog who also enjoys riding with us.
So you and your husband on your own bikes, your own gear, your own setups, 3 dogs. How does that work out?
Yeah, it works out well. We don't carry a lot of stuff for ourselves, but I think most motorcycle adventure riders are in that situation anyway. We lose like the top box space because that's where the dogs go, and of course we have to carry a few extra things for the dogs, dog food, which means we rarely carry food for ourselves, but throughout most of the world that's not a problem. But we've got our system. We know everyone has different things that are important to them when they're traveling overland. They're different priorities, and for us it was definitely the dogs, so we made it work.
I understand. I have 2 dogs myself. They sleep with us. I know a lot of people don't do that, but
we do.
I've done it for so long. It's really I cannot. If we travel and they're not with us, I literally struggle to sleep.
Yeah,
Like, I think it's just a comfort thing. One of them's 80 pounds, and she likes to be right up against me. So, the other one's a wiener dog, so she's tiny. But
yeah,
lab and wiener dog is what we got going on. But I understand that. So whenever you're traveling and you have 3 dogs, you obviously have going from country to country, you have to go through a lot of hoops.
I would say, yeah, through most of the world, the dogs aren't even an issue at land borders. When you fly, what you learn very quickly when you start traveling with dogs is that flying in and out of a country into airports is quite different to the experience you get doing land borders and to a certain extent coming into ports. Airports are very official. If there are any policies or processes in place for bringing dogs into that country, then they will follow that at the airport. But at land borders, I mean, it's up to whoever's at the border and knows what they're doing. So islands are difficult. So we've avoided islands right until the end. Now we're in New Zealand, which is an island, and then we'll be going to Australia, which is an island. But when just doing the land borders, mostly they're checking that your dog has a microchip, so you can prove you own it, and that they're vaccinated against rabies.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say generally the bikes are the hardest to get across borders.
Right. I know there's a lot of countries that won't let you bring in any anything on your vehicle as far as dirt or anything like that, because they don't want to transfer over, bring anything over to their country that, any kind of bug or any kind that's not supposed to be there or whatnot. So I know there's lots of rules about that traveling. I've not traveled internationally. My co-host Misty and her family are getting ready to go on an adventure. They're going to South America. They'll be gone for months, so she'll be podcasting from there.
Fun.
And I'll be here in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Your
turn next time.
We'll be very far away. It's gonna be. We're gonna work it out. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So you and your husband, have you always had a love for bikes? I mean, why not a vehicle? Why bikes?
When we met, my husband had his motorcycle license but didn't ride. He got it. He never got a bike. Sort of forgot about it. And whenever we talked about going traveling or doing a big trip, we thought it would be backpacking because it's the cheapest way to do it. We did have a 4-wheel drive in Australia, and we loved to go 4-wheel driving in our Nissan Patrol. But when we started looking at the costs of shipping a car around the world and maintaining a car, it seemed like spending the money on the wrong type of thing for us. So we but when we threw the dog into the mix and we were going to have to get around with a dog, we thought, well, that's going to be really complicated, backpacking with a dog. Possible, but difficult. How can we make this a bit easier? And by this stage, I had got my motorcycle license purely for practical reasons. I was living in Sydney, and if you had a motorcycle or a scooter, you can use the bus lanes and you can save a lot of time in traffic. And not many people, certainly back then, were riding. So, you got the lane to yourself. So it sort of all just came together that getting bikes would be pretty cheap. But we bought them in the US. So big bike market. It's a good place to buy bikes. And we saved on shipping out of Australia. If we'd bought bikes here, we would have straight up had to pay for shipping. And then we just figured out a way to take our dog on the bike. And I think we're really, really happy with what we did. It worked really well for us. And now I'm a massive motorcycle enthusiast.
I was going to say, it's probably grown on you quite a bit since you said 2012, 14?
14, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, wow, 10 years, literally 10 years. Now, did you have them shipped from the U.S. or did you come over and get them or ship them over yourself?
We found them online before, months before we started the trip, and we used the Horizons Unlimited forum to find people. We bought them in Dallas, found some people in Dallas who could help us with kind of the on-ground side, so that the idea was that the bikes would be ready to go. So when we flew in, we just kind of get on the bikes and start riding. That didn't quite go to plan, but as you
Never does.
no, that was just the start of things never going to plan.
That makes it the adventure.
Yeah. But we've used the same bikes. We've shipped those bikes all around the world with us, and at the moment they're all nice and clean. They're with a friend in Dallas, waiting until we figure out where we're going to ship them next.
So your bikes are back in the U.S.
Yes.
while you are where you are currently, and whenever you decide where you're going next, then you will have them shipped back to you.
Yes, that's the plan. Yeah. It's pretty expensive shipping bikes down to this part of the world, and also importing them. Just the process is quite strict. So we wanted to be sure where we were going to send them before we sent them.
Now shipping them, I would think maybe there's some disassembly for it to ship over.
It depends. We have done that when we shipped our bikes from Thailand to the US last year. We broke them right down to about just over 3 cubic meters. Pulled wheels off, handlebars off, panniers off, stacked everything in, and it was all glad wrapped and strapped down. But we've also not done that when we shipped them from the US to Europe. It was like a roll on, roll off. They went in a container with other bikes. When the container was full, then it shipped. And I think that's kind of what we're looking at doing to bring them down here, down under.
Awesome. So how many different countries have you been to?
On the trip, for the trip, 110 countries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Been to a few countries before we did the trip, but just on this trip, 110.
Do you have a favorite country that you've been to? One that you really loved?
I've got a few favorites. So when I'm thinking of a favorite country, it's I'm thinking about, is it a good country to ride? Is it fun to ride? Is the food good? Are the people nice? And is it pet friendly? Because that can kind of affect our opinion, our experience in a country. So some countries that were really fun for us with our dogs were Mexico and Turkey and Mongolia. Sort of gives a bit of a variety there.
Oh, that's great. For me, I think if I ever were to get to go international, I would be just very interested in the different kinds of foods they have there. I'm a food person. Snacks and food. I mean, Misty could tell you if she was here, she'd be like, it's all about snacks. Arla, make sure she has her snacks. Just the different kinds of, cuisines and stuff that they would have everywhere to try. I think that would be very fascinating. Not to mention, the landscape as well. In your travels, speaking of that, was there a favorite kind of food that you did stumble on, not tried before that you really liked? And
yeah, so we're actually vegetarian, and I think the best food we had was in Ethiopia.
Really?
Yeah, so actually they have a very ancient form of Christianity, and for many days of the year, they can't eat animal or animal products. So their diet is already basically vegan. Anywhere you go and you sit down, you can get you can order heaps of vegan options on the menu, and it's quite interesting because it's like they sort of look like little curries. Have you had Ethiopian food?
No.
So it's served. Well, our experience is it's served on this what looks like a giant pancake. But it's sort of it's savory and a little bit sour, and they put all these colorful different vegetable curries on it, and then you use your hands and you grab the pancake, you sort of rip it off, and you pick up the curry, and then you eat it, and so you're getting all these different flavors and colors and textures, and it was a lot of fun.
So it's like a pancake or maybe a pita bread kind of a.
Yeah, it was soft though, soft like a kind of like a pancake, but bubbly like a crumpet. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this.
It sounds delicious already. You had me
It
soft
was,
and
it was
bubbly.
really good. Yeah, I loved it.
Wow. Do you think that you guys will ever come over to the U.S. and do some travels over here?
We've done a lot of traveling in the US.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, on the bikes. Yeah. So, well, when we started, we got the bikes in Dallas and then we went south. We wanted to get straight into the adventure. So, we went into Mexico and then through Central America and around South America. And then we were trying to figure out how we wanted to get from the Americas over to Europe well, at that point, it was only one dog when we were making that decision. But we'd heard about a cruise line that had kennels on board. So the Queen Mary 2 is the only cruise ship in the world, I think, that has kennels on board. And we thought that would be really nice, a nice way to get our dog across. The price is pretty similar to flying. And it sailed from New York into Southampton. So from South America, we made our way up to North America and we toured around the US and Canada for about 5 months. And then we sailed over to Europe. I may as well carry on with the route so then you know kind of what the route was. From Europe, we really wanted to get to Africa next because the thing is you never know when something's going to happen and the trip might end. So there were regions or parts that we really wanted to do on the bikes, and there were areas we thought, well, if something happens and we don't do it, we can always come back later. Areas like Europe. So it was never our intention to spend too much time in Europe. So we passed through, and then we sailed from Spain into Morocco, and then we basically went through West Africa all the way down to South Africa, and then we went all the way up the east to Egypt. And then we did 25 countries in Africa, and then wow. we flew back into Europe, and we shipped the bikes. The bikes were in a bit of a state; they needed a bit of work, so we went to the UK to do that. And then we were in Europe, and we were heading off to Mongolia, and then COVID happened, and we ended up spending a lot of time in Europe. Because we didn't want to end the trip. We still really wanted to get to Mongolia, and it was 2021. We made our way across Turkey. We did a little bit of the Middle East. We went through Iraq to Jordan because Stu, my husband, really, really wanted to see Petra. That was somewhere on his list from the start of the trip. And then we made our way across Central Asia, so Russia and the stands, across to Mongolia.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, and then how did we end up here? We were from Mongolia. We went back into Russia, across to Vladivostok. We shipped our bikes to Thailand. We took the ferry across to South Korea with the dogs, and then we flew from South Korea into Southeast Asia. We traveled around there for a while, then hopped over to the US, and then now we're here in New Zealand.
Good gracious. Now, how long are you going to be in New Zealand?
We're not sure. New Zealand feels a lot like home, so we're going to give it a chance. We'll see what happens here. We don't really know too many people. But we'll see what happens over the next 6 months.
So you may settle, or you just may just be there for a little bit and then get back on your bike and go.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Not making any plans at the moment.
So when you started your venture, I know a lot of people, they'll sell everything and they'll just go. Is that similar to what you all did? Or?
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. We sold everything. Yeah. We wanted to be open. We didn't know if we might come across somewhere in the world that we really wanted to settle down. We sort of opened to that idea. So we wanted to make sure there was nothing that we had to come back to. We did, we had met people or had friends who had houses or properties, and it was kind of always a tie pulling them back to where they were from. And we didn't want that. So we sold everything, and we're open to the possibility of living somewhere else. But we've been away so long that and definitely, you know, we like the warm climates, and we like the, you know, the lifestyle. Australia and New Zealand are quite similar, so I think this part of the world is always going to be home.
Right. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So whenever whenever you're out on your adventures and you're, I guess I'm trying to figure out with the dogs and y'all on your bikes, what what do you carry? What is the necessities that you do take with you?
Okay. So we have a pretty good toolkit. We ended up getting the same bikes. We got the BMW 650 GS, the single. They're different models, a few years apart, slight differences in the electronics, but mechanically they're basically the same bike. And we did that for a number of reasons, and that worked out really well, because then we just really needed one toolkit. We had to learn how to just fix one bike. And when it comes to troubleshooting on the side of the road, you're trying to figure out what's stopping the bike from running. We can swap parts around. So we've got a good toolkit. That was important. We don't really carry too many spares, although 10 years on the road, people like to give you things, especially if they know your bike. So, and those things have come in handy in plenty of places. So we did accumulate spares that were gifted to us. We definitely, you want to have a good tent mattress set up if you've got dogs, I think, because you really never know when you go to a new country, unless, you know, it's Airbnb and booking.com are pretty good now with pet-friendly filters, so you get a fair idea whether there's going to be pet-friendly accommodation in a country. But when we started, we weren't really using those kind of platforms, so camping's always an option with dogs, or if you get caught out on the side, you know, a breakdown or whatever. So we have really good camping. It's not big, mind you. We have a 2-man tent. And our inflatable mattress does bulge at the edges, but it fits all 5 of us comfortably. So yeah, everything that goes with that, pillows and sleeping bags. We don't carry much in the way of clothes or shoes. That's quite minimal. We do have one item that surprises people, is we have this double-seater camping chair. It sort of pulls out, and it's quite bulky, but it's not heavy. But that's been amazing. We brought that with us from Australia. It was a gift, and we brought a lot of stuff when we started the trip. We didn't know what we were going to use, what we were going to want, so we just thought we'd take everything and get rid of it as we go. We'll figure it out. And the camping chair came, but we've had that camping chair for the 10 years, and the dogs absolutely love it. We pull that out anywhere and they are straight onto it. At the end of a riding day, particularly if it's been a tough riding day, all 3 of them, well, since we've had 3, want to climb onto the camping chair.
Oh, you're like, but Mom wants to sit on the camping chair too.
We never get the camping chair.
Yeah. To the mattress you go, or sit on your bike. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. I knew you wouldn't probably be able to carry, you know, many items like clothing. So here's the thing for me, overlanding and whatnot. I am still trying to work on paring down. I'm an overpacker.
Okay.
So I'm one of those people that, yeah. My husband, he has. So we both have our own vehicles. Like you have your own motorcycles with your husband. He has a Jeep Gladiator. I have a Jeep JK. We both have setups, you know, but he'll constantly tell me, honey, you don't need that. No, you don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need all that. You know, constantly. That's too many clothes. We're just going for 3 days. I'm like, yeah, but what if? Like, what if? He's like, no, you got too much stuff. So I'm really, really, really trying to get better about my kitchen stuff, everything that I have to have, and overpacking. But it's the clothes thing I overpack with. That's the point right there.
Yeah.
I'm trying
the clothes is hard. I do love clothes. I do miss clothes.
And you can't really buy any clothes because you have to pack them somewhere. Something's got to go. You
Yeah.
buy something, one's got to go.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
So basically, just bring one in. Like if you have a kid, you give away a toy, you bring in a toy, that kind of thing. You have to trade it in.
Yeah, and we've actually, I had, we often get shirts given to us along the way, and it means a lot when someone gives you something. So I pretty much now only have shirts that people have given me, and all of my shirts have gone.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, I purged my closet last weekend. I did the big girl thing because I'm ridiculous, and I got rid of 2 30-gallon trash bags
Oh wow!
of clothes from my closet, and I can't really even tell that big of a difference. That's in our house. So you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Minimalist, I am not. I'm not. I mean, I'm trying.
It takes time. Yeah, it takes time.
I'm just trying. So whenever you're out on your bikes, hygiene. I mean, is it a struggle? I mean, showering and wipes are. There's so many things out there now that you can do and use besides taking a regular shower, obviously. But what is your go-to?
So I've learned to go a few days without showering. I've got used to that. Typically, that's been in cold climates anyway, so it's not such a big deal. You don't really notice it so much with all the layers. You're not really sweating. We do carry baby wipe, like a packet of baby wipes, or just a cheap packet of wipes. They're handy anyway with the dogs. Our go-to is, well, if we're somewhere cold, it's looking for hot springs to hop in, or rivers or beaches. I mean, for me, it's washing my hair. It's like my thing. I like to wash it every day. Even if the rest of me doesn't get a wash or can't get a wash, I really like to wash my hair.
Me
It's
too.
stupid. After 10 years, you think I'd be over that, but absolutely not. And we've got those collapsible pots for cooking. The Cedar Summit. They're great. And I can find a river or some kind of water source and just get the water and pour it over my hair, shampoo, wash it off, and then I feel $1 million again. It really.
So they say that washing your hair every day is bad for it, but I can promise you that I'm a wash your hair every day person. I have friends that can go several days and do dry shampoo. I can't do that.
I can't do
that stuff. My hair feels gross. I can't do it. I just can't. When we're camping, it's hard. I mean, I could go for a couple days and not wash it, but as soon as I get home, I'm scrubbing my head. I can't stand that.
Yeah, I'm so
with you. I feel so much better if my head is clean.
Yeah, it's just something I'm really conscious about. And you give your face a wash, and I do it in the morning, like I'm a morning shower. It's how I like to start my day, and that absolutely hasn't changed. I still try to do that if possible.
Yeah, in the morning it helps you wake up. I'm not, try to get going. If you get that, just get that, and the rest can be baby wipes, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Good to go. You'll make it, right? You'll make it. Was that a hard transition for you coming from your home and deciding to go on this adventure?
Yeah, I definitely. The first few times when we ended up in kind of deserts and not being able to shower, and I get quite grumpy.
Yeah.
Now I don't, but everything about me has changed so much over the 10 years. You do get used to things like that. It's hard to kind of break it down because it's happened over such a long period of time.
Right. I mean, we've only been overlanding, 3-4 years, and at first it was hard. It was hard for me to make the adjustment because before overlanding, we actually had a camper. We had a fifth wheel camper, and we did the RV thing, and went to all the campgrounds with the full hookups, and we thought we were really camping.
Yeah.
Well, rooftop tents, all these things. You bring water with you so you can cook and all those things. So that's a big adjustment from going from that and switching over to when we bought our first Jeep, which was mine, and deciding, hey, we want to get out and see more things that you can't see if you have a fifth wheel RV.
Yeah.
If you have something that you have your tent on, you go anywhere and see so many different things. And we have in the last few years seen so many different things we never would have seen with our fifth wheel.
Yeah. I do think, sorry, just thinking about that, it was difficult to begin with, but I think you're kind of on sensory overload with overlanding, especially if you're moving pretty often. And we were moving we're moving pretty often. There's a lot going on. So I think, because it was something I would do first thing in the morning, I'd be a bit grumpy in the morning, but once we were packing up and we were on the bikes, I'd forget about it because there was just so many other things going on. And that, I think that's really what makes it easier, is you're not just sitting around thinking about it. The fact that you haven't showered. Yeah. Or anything else that you find difficult to adjust. There's just so many other things going on that are taking up your mind.
Yeah. Breaking down camp and all that, and putting everything back on the bike, and
trying to find, some days it's trying to find food, or trying to get money out of an ATM, or get photocopies for a border crossing.
All the documentation you need. And
yeah.
So you said you don't really carry any kind of food and whatnot. So you probably have some sort of snack or some sort of something like that with you, but not like actual groceries with you on the bike.
No, there's really only been a couple of times we knew we were heading out into remote areas, and so we made sure we were prepared. Things like, tins of beans and oats to make porridge, easy kind of, and meals that gave us energy. But other than that, no, we don't really carry food. And it has meant that we've been caught a number of times, going to bed without food, because we've had a really tough riding day, and we've been setting up in the dark, and after all that, you just can't be bothered, so you just go to bed. So we actually don't really carry snacks either. All
right, I couldn't do the bike thing.
Yeah, everyone does their own thing. Somebody else will probably not have a double-seater camping chair. That's a lot of space you can put food.
Well, you got to pick and choose your battles, I guess. But
yeah.
I got to have granola bar or something. There's got to be something around there. Because you talk about grumpy.
Yeah.
You get real grumpy. But I know what you're talking about. Sometimes you get to camp, it's later in the evening than what you anticipated, and then you got to set up your tent and get everything, organized. And by the time you're just exhausted anyway, it's not that you're hungry at that point. You're just so tired you don't care.
Yeah.
Now the next morning, got to get a move on.
Yes. Yeah.
Got to get a move on. So basically, you guys will eat when you're going through towns and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we pack up if we're camping. We'll pack up. We'll hit the road, and then about an hour into riding, we'll start looking for somewhere to have something to eat, some breakfast. We try to break up the day a lot for the dogs. We're not going to get on the bike and ride straight, for hours and hours. So we try to tie in the breaks with more than just one reason to stop, if that makes sense. So a fuel stop is get the dogs down, eating, get the dogs down, buying parts, get the dogs down.
Restroom breaks, just stop, get a drink, anything, just to get off the bike, I bet.
Yeah.
And also when you're riding for a long time, whether it's in a car or on a bike, you get a little stove up from sitting there so long. You need to get up and walk around. So
yeah,
I agree. I used to be able to sit in a car all day and travel, and I can't. I cannot do it anymore. I got to get out and stop. So if there's time to get fuel, then I'm out. I'm out of the
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did struggle with the endurance, like the long days at the start of our trip. We did a bit in Mexico, but I really noticed when we were crossing Mongolia, because there's not very much across most of Mongolia. I noticed really how far I'd come with kind of the mental endurance you need to be doing the long days. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I can only imagine that. Have you ran into, I'm sure you haven't, have you ran into extreme weather, like where you've had to take shelter because you couldn't be in your tent, or you couldn't be out on the bike, driving or riding?
Yeah, we did. The start of the trip was such a steep learning curve. There was so many things that you what you realize when you look back is you sort of worried about all the wrong things before you started the trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so we learned about having a weather app and watching the weather and things like that. So at the beginning, we definitely did get caught. I think in Brazil, a number of times it was the rainy season, and through the Amazon, it just, when it comes down, it absolutely comes down. You really can't ride in it. It's so heavy. So we did, that happened a lot at the start of the trip, but now and the apps now is so pretty accurate. You can see cloud systems moving across, and we'll stop if we know it's the wet sea, if it's a rainy time of year or whatever. We'll stop and we'll check where the system's moving, and maybe we'll go south to avoid it or go north to avoid it. We rarely get caught in bad weather these days.
Not anymore. Do you carry some sort of like a satellite tracker or something with you, in case your phone does not have service, obviously, like for family to know where you're at, like dropping a pin to them if you guys are somewhere so they know where you're at, basically?
Yeah, we got a spot.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always had the subscription while we're traveling, for the SOS and the text messages. But really, it's been very useful for tracking our route, because that's one of the features it does, is you can go back and it keeps a record of the route that you've taken. So we've had that. We've never had to use it. We've never really even been close to using it. But it was nice to have, and I would recommend having something like that for anyone traveling overland.
Absolutely. My husband does a lot of trips, more so than me. We have a daughter, so and she's in school still, so he will tend to go out and do some trips, and he carries a Garmin with him.
Mm-hmm.
And if he gets somewhere where he doesn't have signal, then he will text in from that to tell me where he's at. But we have also an app on our phone called Life 360. That'll get it pretty close. Like if he loses service, and I kind of know a general area where he was, but he does tell me where he's going. But just as a rule of thumb, when he gets to where he's going to camp, he sends a message or sends me some sort of coordinates or something like that. But he's usually with somebody, sometimes not, but yeah, big safety feature. Big fan of that.
Yeah. And something else we sort of picked up on in the first year was just getting a SIM card every country we went to. Just a basic plan, just something that if you need to, you've got some way of reaching someone. I mean, when you start traveling overland, you meet people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's nice to stay connected, and you can join groups. There's some great WhatsApp groups in different continents, and when you've got the SIM card, then you can stay in touch with people and get the news. People heading in different directions, particularly if you join a group. I think that's great. Or heads up on border crossings, or your road conditions, or great places to stay.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's all good stuff. Whenever you're traveling with your phone, when you're going country to country, are you having to change your phone plan as you move? Like a different international phone plan as you go? Or does it stay the same? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I've got a WhatsApp account linked to my Australian number, and I've got my Australian SIM card. I've always got that with me, and I can receive text messages. But I haven't used that since I've traveled, since I left Australia. I've got the SIM card if I need it.
Okay.
But we tend to, like when we were in the US, we got, I think it was Tello or something like that. And, we got a SIM card each, and just hopped on a prepaid. And we've done that. And that's sort of what we've done from country to country. I think in Europe, you can get SIM cards, or, it's changing every year. SIM cards are getting better and better, and you can use them in more and more countries. But we got a SIM card in the UK before Brexit, and we were able to use that across Europe, which was handy. But then, traveling across Central Asia and within Southeast Asia, we had to get we'd get a SIM card. We cross the border and go to a phone shop and get a SIM card, at least one.
Okay. I was curious how that worked. I wasn't sure, but I was thinking, like if we travel from the US and we want to go over there, we have to get an international phone plan, or the rates or your phone bill will be unbelievable. Not affordable.
Oh, I see. Oh, for like roaming. Yeah. So we never know. So we avoid that by just getting a SIM card in each country or for a region.
Okay, so that's how you avoid that.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's usually pretty easy. You just need your passport. You go in and they register you, and off you go. Prepaid, some kind of prepaid plan.
That sounds pretty easy.
Yeah,
that sounds pretty easy. So where you're currently at right now, you're gonna stay there and see if you guys love it.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, you will get back on the bikes.
Yeah, we're missing the bikes definitely at the moment.
So if you don't have your bikes and you guys are settled somewhere for the time being, how are you getting around? Or are you in a town where you just don't need that?
We've used it whenever we've not had the bikes. There's been a few times when we've shipped bikes and we've been without them. Get around on public transport. That's definitely more difficult with 3 dogs, but we have done it. Here, when we've needed to, we can hire a car whenever we need to move from like a city to another city.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something really interesting in New Zealand. Maybe it's in other countries as well. We just never heard of it. But it's quite popular for people to fly into Auckland or into the North Island and then hire a car or a van or a camper, and then they drive it to the South Island, and then they end up with a surplus of vehicles in the South Island that need to get moved to the North Island. That's sort of the main chunk of for this, but there are other places where hire cars or vans or campers end up and they need to get them moved around the country. So there's a website and you can hop on, and for I think it's $25, you get whichever vehicle you select, and you take it to wherever they need it. And we did this because we flew into Christchurch with the dogs. They did quarantine down there, and we wanted to get up to Auckland. So we got a car, and it came with a free tank of fuel. We did have to pay for the ferry. There's a ferry between the North and the South Island, but there are campers where you get it for 6 days, and that you get a free tank of fuel, and you get the ferry included. So for 6 days, you get a camper. You just have to get it from one A to B for them.
So basically a rental for the week.
Yeah. It's super cheap.
That's cool. That's really cool. So is there one spot that you have not been that's like on your bucket list, your dream destination to try to visit?
There's we really wanted to go to Cuba, but we didn't get to Cuba. It was possible when we were traveling south. There was a ship that would do trips out to Cuba and then to Mexico. I think, was it Mexico, Cuba, and then Colombia, or there was a route there. We found out about it too late to be able to get on because it was always booked in advance. So Cuba's somewhere that we missed that we really would like to go to. And we also missed going through sort of Iran, Pakistan, India, Nepal, that region. That was somewhere we wanted to get to that we haven't yet.
But on the list.
Yeah, one day.
That's still on the list.
Yeah.
Awesome. If anybody wanted to, basically this is your time to let everyone know how to join your adventures on your social media. If you could give that to us.
So we've got a website. It's www.thepacktrack.com. And there are links on there to our social media sites. But basically, it's the Pack Track on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. There's not a lot. We're not professionals. We don't make any money out of it. It's just been us sharing our stories and probably documenting the dog side of thing and border crossings to try and help other people who might want to do that, because the internet isn't the easiest place to find the on the ground information for land borders. Yeah, with dogs.
I just forgot. I was gonna say I hate when I do that. Something about that, and I was like, ooh. So the name, the Pack Track. How did you come up with that? Does that have to do with the dogs, a pack, or?
Yes. Yeah. So we wanted something, a name that was going to sort of summarize everything. So the pack for the dogs and the track for, the road you take. And it sounded cool, we thought.
No, I wondered if it had to do with the dogs. I mean, because a pack of dogs, I got that.
Pretty much every decision we make does get tied back to the dogs.
And I'm with you there. We're the same with our two. They're like our kids, they're part of our family. So we have to always keep in mind with them if we're taking them on a trip or not taking them, or, all the decisions. Like I said, I like to have them sleep with me. I like to have them sleep with me. It was great having you on the show. I apologize. We had some technical difficulties right there at the front where we figured it out, but we didn't get to talk very much before we had to go live and whatnot. And I look forward to your adventures. I just started watching your channel and trying to get familiar and see the babies and what all y'all are doing. And I think it's amazing. All the places y'all have been.
Yeah, thanks.
Amazing. One day I hope to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right now I'm working. If I win the lottery, I'm doing all of it. I'm doing it all. Anyway, good luck to you all. We'll be watching to see what the next travels are for you.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you next week.